Hi everyone, I'm so happy that you're here to join me for the Way of the Animal podcast. So on today's podcast, I thought people pleasing would be a good topic to talk about, especially as I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Is it something you have to recover from?
I don't know. It's sort of addictive, habit forming, isn't it?
It definitely is habit forming, and there's definitely a branch of people who it's quite important to, which probably comes somewhere from childhood, I'm guessing. I don't know.
For me, for people pleasing, it's come from I want everyone to be happy.
Yeah.
So if I please them by meeting all their needs in whatever form that is and doing what they need, then they'll be happy.
I definitely, and I wonder if everyone to a degree has a certain proportion of people pleasing in them, because I have a bit of people pleasing in me, not nearly as strong as you, but definitely I do have that trait that I'm aware of. But I wonder if it's a bit of a natural thing, seeing as we're kind of social animals.
Yeah, we're community-minded, sort of.
It's like part of being part of a community is the give and take.
Apparently, Callan has now decided to play with his bone rather loudly. Excellent.
So yeah, is it part of being a community that you have to have that give and take, you have to have that compromise, you have to have a little bit of you driving to please other people to allow you to fit in?
Yes. I think you're right. What? You have an opinion, Callan? Callan has an opinion.
Callan wants to be people pleased.
You know, I might just leave this in so everyone else can enjoy this.
That's very pleasing, Callan. Thank you.
You know what concerns me about people pleasers, and it's a reason to not do it so much, is that in people pleasing, sometimes you sacrifice yourself and your own life and happiness to make sure that everyone else is happy.
Yeah. So I think that's the definite thing, and it's one of the things I thought about asking is, you're a people pleaser, but do you not see yourself as people?
Yeah, but it's that thing, isn't it? You put other people's happiness in front of your own.
Yeah.
And, it takes you back to the planes crashing and you need to put your oxygen mask on you first.
Yes.
And I think in people pleasing, if you don't honor yourself first and think of pleasing yourself and your needs as well as everyone else's, you're not doing it in a balanced way.
Yes.
But that I think also society and peers and whatever will make you feel that by focusing on yourself and your needs first, you're being selfish.
We're definitely brought up to be told that focusing on yourself is selfish, which is rubbish. But here's a fictitious scenario for you. Imagine a place where everyone was 100% people pleaser all the time. Would that balance out? Because while you might not be putting time in for yourself, the people around you would be putting in time for you.
Now, here's the next equation. Here's the next thought that comes to me about this. And obviously, I deal with this a lot because I'm a people pleaser and I am still working on honoring myself and my needs. And I do that now, but with guilt. So I'm still working through that. So I'm honoring myself, but I feel bad sometimes that I'm honoring myself first. Where was I going with this? The question is nope, blank.
It's that thing. Does another person trying to be a people pleaser for you fulfill you?
No. My question was, when you're busy people pleasing for other people, how do you know that you're meeting their needs? And how do you know that meeting their needs and pleasing them is actually good for them? You know, are
That's
you
a
doing
really
a good
good
thing?
point.
Are
'Cause-
you doing a good thing? Because, like, one of my things that I worked through with my great coach, Amy, was that in doing a lot of the things that I do to try and keep people happy and to help them and all that stuff, I was taking people's own power away from them, their power of choice to do what they want to do, their learnings in their life that they needed to learn, by trying to make everything perfect for them.
I do this with you.
Yes, that's what it.
With
why
you
it came to-
specifically,
yeah.
yes. I try to people please with you. It's not even people please, it's happy wife, happy life. I try to keep everything smooth sailing for you. I don't tell you sometimes when there are bumps in the road. I try and limit your knowledge of things just so that you only need to know what you need to know, and all the other stuff I can worry about, which does take the power away from you. It's probably a little bit, it's not good for you.
No, and I know it's like you're trying to protect me.
Condescending, that was the word I was searching for.
Well, it's like you're trying to protect me, but then, you know, in trying to protect me, and you're honestly doing it in the most wonderful way that you think is best, it actually makes me feel like I must be so weak that I need protecting from it.
That's the condescending bit. It's like, well, you're so pathetic. You couldn't possibly handle this. I'll deal with that, and you look at the pretty flowers.
And then, you know, and inevitably I find out about the whole things that you've just told me little bits. And it's not even about the problem that's the problem. It's the feeling of, what, you think I'm so weak that I can't deal with that hurts more than anything. It's so really interesting relationship wise, you know.
It is. And it's one of those things too with it that I have quite a strong belief and ability to put things into perspective of can I affect this? If I can have an effect on it, then I will be concerned about it. If I have no control over it and it's a negative thing happening to me, but there's nothing, okay, that's fine. That's just the way things are. So sometimes problems we have with our immigration. It's like they do something. There's nothing I can do about it. It's negative. It's a real pain in the neck, and I have to do a whole bunch of extra work because of it. And kind of they were wrong, but I can't affect it. I can have no. So whatever. I can let that go really quickly.
So can I? Yeah. I'm good at that.
Yeah, that's what that big pause was.
That was you trying to formulate the words without being painfully, brutally honest about how I deal with it.
Quite simply, I tell you things about that, and it rocks your equilibrium.
Yeah.
As it should do.
Yep.
And it's a whole lot of stress and stuff that you have to work through.
Takes me a bit longer.
Which you don't have to.
I know. Exactly.
That's the reason.
It.
That's the logic behind my thing. You don't have to go through that because I can handle that, and you can see the outcome.
Yeah, and I get that. It's if you think I don't notice that you're handling something without me.
Oh no, I know you're aware that I'm handling something without you.
And it's something about, you know, when the whole truth's not being said, what else whole truths am I not? You know, it's like
trust.
That trust, you know. And I know you're doing it from a place of honor and protecting, and it's really sweet of you, but it can be, sort of demoralizing. It just makes me feel very small as a person. And I struggle a bit more in sort of overcoming adversity. Is that
that's a good way of putting it?
It just takes me a bit longer to process through the emotions and the feelings that come up when things aren't going right.
Yeah.
But you know what it made me think of? I was listening to a really interesting podcast the other day, and this woman has gone through multiple problems with cancer and things like that. And the person she was speaking to was actually a friend who knew of all her struggles and stuff. And she said, and they said, you know, it's amazing to see you through the good and the bad. And she said, no, it's all good. And I thought, wow, you know, understanding that some things feel bad and negative, like you said, but it's all part of the journey. So it's all good in a way. It's getting
It
you
is.
somewhere.
And that's the other thing, is all the triggers and things that I try to shield you from through a people-pleasing side of things are all little bumps in your road that help your resilience, that help your personal growth. Like they're all good for you.
Yeah. If you try to protect me, or if I try to protect myself by hiding away from the world and all its triggers that can happen, I will never learn to be resilient and strong and stand on my own 2 feet and do things myself. You know,
it makes me think of that sort of the kind of clean, freaky type world to live in, where you're cleaning everything and no germs, which is kind of bad for you, because getting exposed to germs and bacteria and things like that helps you build an immune system.
It's normal.
Makes you healthier, you know. So it's kind of like that same sort of thing.
Yeah.
That the trying to shield you from things is bad.
Yeah, it's like understanding that the things that trigger you are good for you to learn to deal with, you know.
Everything's about learning.
Even though it always seems to be that it's just like quick fire.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like a domino, you know.
Yeah.
Something happens and it just seems to be boom, 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 boom. And it can be very overwhelming because it just feels like you can't catch a break. But sometimes you quick fire all through all that, and it's all the same sort of resilient learning that you're learning, using learning twice. But, you know, it's the same ability to help yourself that you're learning. You know?
And, you know, all the things that don't wobble your equilibrium one way or the other, they're not learning moments. They're kind of... And
almost you realise that things that used to trigger you
don't trigger you in the future.
Yeah. So that was that's a good side note about...
Well, I think with that, you're totally right that if you did have a community that everyone was 100% people pleaser, it wouldn't be good for that community. You have to be selfish. You have to be focused on yourself.
I think it would fall apart.
You have to be decisive. You have to make decisions. I'm terrible at that, making a decision that affects the two of us.
Yeah.
Because I will try and make the decision that is best for you.
Yeah.
Not the decision that is best for us.
Yeah. And, you know, I we've been together. Well, actually, it's 21 years today we've been together.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's something that I will point out to you regularly. You know, just stop trying to make the decision for me. Make it, you know, we'll make it together for all of us, you know. And it is, when you start doing that, you're taking away people's power to make their own decisions, to deal with their own life when you're constantly trying to make it right for them.
Do you think when you're heavily into people pleasing, you become hugely unaware of how it affects you?
Yeah, well, I think it makes your life really stressful.
It does. But then you must get like a dopamine hit or something like that from people pleasing. It's that doing a nice deed.
Yeah.
You know, you must get some sort of reward from it. So it's like, it feels nice. Oh, it's nice to see them happy. Yeah. It's nice to see.
You feel like you're a good person.
You feel like you're a good person. But you're losing track of yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then you're living like vicariously through them.
I think there's that. And then I think some of people pleasing can come from your own low self-worth.
Okay.
As well. Yeah. So like you're like, well, I don't deserve all that, but they do. So let's give it to them, even if they can't see it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a sort of complex subject because it depends on your motivations, but generally the motivations for people pleasing is you want them to be happy.
Definitely.
But sometimes it's you want them to be happy so you have an easier life. Yep. You know, so people pleasing narcissists or people pleasing people in your life that you don't really like, but if they're happy, you have an easier life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing.
Yep, exactly. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like a difficult road to travel.
It really is. And I think if you took the polar opposite of what I said before, if you had a group of people, a society that was completely selfish and had no interest in pleasing other people and were only out for themselves, I think they probably would do better than the society that's 100% people pleasing, but I think it still wouldn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it really, like, because there's self-love and doing things for yourself, and then there's the sort of egoic self-presence of...
I suppose it probably would do, because you could be completely 100% for yourself. So you're advocating for yourself. Everything is how does this benefit me? But in that, helping the people around you benefits you.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, I do feel like it's like your motivation, your intention behind it all is the importance of it. Do you know what I mean? It's a fine line between looking after yourself and realizing that your health and happiness is vital.
Yeah.
To just being a horrible person to everyone else because you're most important.
I'm more important than you. Yeah.
It's like, I think when you truly do it from the right intention and motivation, it just spills out over everyone else like that, because you believe in yourself. You have that sort of self-compassion and self-love that it just overflows in that way to other people. When you feel you're all high and mighty, that spills out in a different energy over people. There's that sort of, you almost treat people around you in a condescending way, in a way of they're smaller or less important than you. It's really interesting. So less important is like, no one's less important, but there's nothing more important than yourself first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, wow.
It's a real complicated subject. And I think that's the thing. So I always see something very similar to this in farming. So farmers are quite independent. They usually don't let their neighbors know what's going on. And you get into a lot of situations where it's like, well, you're next door to each other. So you've got the same sort of ground, same sort of business. There's maybe some piece of machinery or something you need that's really expensive that neither one of you can afford, but together you could afford it. And if you got it together, then you could work, and you could get better. So that would be helping out each other from a cooperative way. Mm-hmm. But each of you is gaining something from it. I think that's what it comes down to. It's the people pleasing or being selfish. It's more about the intention behind it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you're dabbling in a little bit of people pleasing to help that person along that also has a feedback on you, like, that's quite a good way to do things. And there's nothing wrong with it having a feedback on you. This idea of a selfless act. Yeah.
Well, because we're all connected. It's all community. So whatever you do affects everything else. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, I don't think it's like Friends.
I know.
Ultimately, I don't think there is a selfless act.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, it's that, are you people pleasing and putting yourself down? Are you people pleasing and building both of you up together? Are you selfish and putting people down? Mm-hmm. Or are you selfish and helping build other people up to help support you?
Yeah. That's it. And it literally is the intention behind it. But the problem is with people pleasing, when you're genuinely just doing it because you want people to be happy, it's a nice intention.
It's a nice intention, but it's misguided.
Well, it's just not. It's like, you can do that, but only if you put yourself first.
Yeah. And if you're constantly sort of putting yourself down to put other people up, it's not a nice feeling for that person you're being...
But you're not even putting yourself down, you just put your needs to the side. It's just like... It's like a sacrifice.
But it's not a good experience for the person that you're pleasing.
No.
Because when they become aware of you putting yourself out, then they feel guilty, and they it's not a useful thing. Whereas if it's like,
and then it's that feedback loop. Sorry to interrupt. Of like, you want someone to be happy, so you try to make them happy, and then you're a bit unhappy because you haven't been fulfilling your needs, and then the person you've been making happy is feeling a little bit unhappy because
Yeah.
unhappy because you're not fulfilling your needs. It's like a whole feedback loop
It
of
is, yep.
mess.
And that comes into sort of advocating for yourself, the whole people pleasing, and then getting bitter about the fact that people aren't people pleasing you.
Or that people aren't recognizing you. So that, you could get into the whole external validation of if you please everyone, they'll think you're amazing and you get that recognition back.
But you might not.
And then again, that's not a good motivation or intention for doing it.
Yeah.
But that's you. Again, this takes it back to when you don't love yourself first, then when you're trying to people please people and get that recognition from outside of you, that's not where you must love yourself first,
yeah.
and everyone else will see that in you. It's like, it's part of the little hiccup I'm having at the moment, is that sort of returning to believing in myself again and like feeling like I'm worthy and loving myself. And that's like, it's easy for me to get knocked off of that sometimes with external things that go on,
It's interesting. And what I'm thinking about at the moment is, where does like doing a good deed fall into people pleasing? So helping someone with their groceries out to their car.
I think that's just genuine kindness. If it's done with kindness out of your heart, just because you want to help someone, then it's who we are. We always want to help other people. Maybe that's the
distinction, is doing a good deed versus people pleasing. Because I feel like people pleasing has a bit of a negative connotation to it.
I think it's just that it's like, it's beyond just a little good deed a lot of the time. It's like trying to change trajectory of outcomes, life, what's going on.
Yeah.
It's like a real in-depth thing. Whereas just an act of kindness is just...
Does people pleasing seem like not genuine, not on it, like almost...
Like I said, it's the motivation behind it. I think, like, it's, for me, that wanting everyone to be happy is a misguided motivation. Yeah. Like, it's like, no one is ever happy all the time. And
also, you're not responsible for their happiness.
The responsibility is the challenge. And it's like with our animals that we have, you don't want them to get hurt. You want to try and protect them, and you want to look after them the best way you can. But, they're animals and things happen. And then there's that sort of, when you take responsibility for trying to make them protected from everything in life, it's like, A, you take their power away, and B, it's just an impossibility for a life to be that easy. That's not what life's about,
It's funny. What it really sprung to mind there was a quote from a movie, which I've been thinking about a lot since I watched the movie. I watched Cinderella Man, and it's about a boxer, but it's more about the Great Depression than anything else. And there's a part where the wives are talking. The fighter and the manager wives are sitting talking, and one of the wives says, "I don't know who it's harder on, us or them. They feel like us sitting waiting for them to fix it, they feel like they have to fix it, but feel like they're failing us every time they don't." And I think there's a certain amount of people pleasing that goes on in marriage because husbands feel like they're responsible for their wife's happiness and everything. Like you said,
happy wife, happy life. You know, there's that.
Your husband is responsible for your happiness, which isn't true. You're responsible for your own happiness, but husbands will always feel this way till the end of the world.
Well, it's because they care. Like, in the same way that I feel I'm responsible for your happiness. I care,
Yeah, that's it. But ultimately, I'm responsible for my happiness.
And
you're
I'm
responsible for your happiness.
And together we can be happy.
That's it. Yeah. So when you put yourself out to make me happy, well, that's no good because that makes you unhappy.
Yeah.
When we do something collaboratively that makes us both happy, well, that works out.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's a good point.
It is a good point.
It's a big subject, really. Like, it takes on so much more than what, people pleasing seems so simple.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly,
It
like,
does.
I said it as an idea this morning, just as we were wandering about, going, oh, what we got to talk about? And I said, oh, people pleasing. And I'd never thought it would be simple, but it's interesting where it's taken us.
It definitely is. And to just go back to that movie quote, it's definitely...
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's definitely... Well, it's just sitting with me there that is definitely, I think, what spurs a lot of marriages to go into people-pleasing mode, which doesn't fulfill either of them, is that feeling of being responsible for the other person's happiness and feeling like, well, I must be failing if they're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe comes into the rest of the world as well. If you're a people pleaser because you want everyone to be happy and there are people around you who are unhappy, well, you must be failing at that.
Yeah.
And that I'm failing because they're not happy. Well, it's their responsibility for them. But yeah.
It's interesting.
It's a tough place to be.
Mm-hmm. So, yourself first.
Self first.
Yeah. In a loving, caring
It's
way.
it's a bit brutal when you think about it. People pleasing.
But it's that thing, how you want me to be happy and I want you to be happy. So if we actually directed that internally to ourselves and made ourselves happy,
oh yeah,
like, then
100%.
it wouldn't have to happen.
When I'm in a happy, good, great mood, it lifts you up.
Yeah.
When you're in a happy, good, it lifts me up. So yeah.
It's like it creates this energy around you. You see it with the dogs, you see it with everything.
Yeah.
But that happiness doesn't come from you people pleasing me. That happiness comes from me.
Yes.
Sorting me.
That's it. And when you take care of yourself and you are happy in yourself, then that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Which then makes you happy, which then makes me happy.
Yeah, it's that,
you get into that
and
nice
you'll
feedback
notice
loop.
that, that positive feedback loop, that positivity just envelops you everywhere you go.
It does.
Every
and
person you meet,
the opposite is true as well.
Yes.
When you're unhappy, it kind of brings me down. When I'm unhappy, it brings you down.
It's a whole, I think we've spoken about it before, but it's the energy and vibration of different frequencies of emotions and feelings and things.
It's like that thing about surrounding yourself by people who bring you up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like where we were speaking about it, the rotten fruit. If you've got a moldy fruit next to the other fruit, it makes all the other fruit rotten.
Yeah. That's it.
So then if you have a little bit of fruit you're the fruit that's rotting, if you make yourself happy and healthy and fresh and not rotting, then everything else will bloom around you,
That's it.
They're kind of putting several analogies together because we've gone from fruit to flowers, but whatever.
It works.
We're going with it. But yeah, good topic.
Yeah, interesting.
Thank you very much.